Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. This is Victor. Let's talk about mission creep in our way to World War III. Victor, what do you know about mission creep, the term?
Well, in like business, a team of people's on a project and they're trying to accomplish certain goals, and it would be called scope creep, usually in the business world, and it just means you've been given three, let's say, items that you have to accomplish, and while you're working on it, people decide, well, we also need to accomplish these other items, so you're moving the goalpost farther away and adding more work to the original project.
Okay, that's interesting. But it's kind of a little different than what I'm going to talk about because I'm going to talk about specific areas of mission creep where the American people are against one thing, but the government's mission creep in our way there. Because I remember there was a video we did and you said, but how did the war, like how did we get into the war? Who decided? We didn't decide. We mission creeped our way there.
Okay.
The American people are often against wars, but we mission creep our way there. So we're going to end up in Ukraine because this is where we're talking about now. But I want to talk about some historical examples of mission creep.
Okay, cool.
That are just very obvious. And we're just going to talk about the biggest ones because we could just go on for hours if we want to, because this is what the system does to get America into wars against your will. So like in World War I, right?
Okay.
The American people want to be neutral. The American people elect Woodrow Wilson on the platform of maintaining neutrality, right? But then the government does things that are not neutral. Like, for example, what if we sent a bunch of weapons to the UK or Britain back then, right? And, well, I don't know which one they were back then. And we put them on a passenger liner. The Lusitania, let's just throw them on there, The Germans sink the military vessel carrying the military weapons, and we say, oh, America, you should be more ready for war now, right? There were no weapons on there. A couple years later, there's weapons on there. There's weapons. All the weapons are on there, all the ammunition,
Was there civilians at all? Or?
Yeah, no, there were civilians.
Oh, good.
And it was a British ship, and there were American civilians and British civilians and other civilians.
So how is that different than Hamas hiding their rocket launchers in a school?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Or like in Iraq, they hit them in the mosques.
Oh, yeah, right.
They're like, you're attacking our religion. Okay. But what I'm saying is they're doing this on purpose. So the system is saying, hey, we don't really care about any of those civilians on the boat.
Right.
Because we have a mission to do. It's the mission that the American people don't want to do. So let's get all them people murdered and we can get a little mission creep down the road. And now we're an inch closer. And we need to get another inch. And so then we get into World War I and over 100,000 Americans died. We didn't want to be in the war. And it was a draft. So you don't even have a choice. You look at World War II, right? Why did we get into World War II?
Because we forced Japan into a corner.
Because we forced Japan into a corner. Do you want to tell the story or you want me to?
You'll probably have the details better, so go for it.
Okay. So what happened is Japan, so World War II is going to start in 1939 officially with Germany invading Poland and then France and Britain declaring war on Germany. But what really happened is 2 years earlier in 1937, Japan had invaded China. And they were doing some bad things, rape of Nanking. Which is crazy because there's like an island and China's massive, but they're like first world status at this point.
And China was not.
And China was definitely not, right? And there's the only non-Western country that's first world status in the world at the time. And we wanted to get in the war with our allies.
We being the government.
Well, oh yeah, the American people didn't want the war at all.
Again.
At all, right. And it's just a terrible idea to have a draft. I got sons, it's terrible, And so we were mission creeping in Europe. We were like, oh, we'll do Lend-Lease and just 30 older destroyers we'll give to. Okay. When you're trying to judge somebody's neutrality, that right there immediately takes you out of neutrality. Like we have these myths that in World War I and World War II that Holland and Belgium were neutral and therefore Germany was a belligerent for attacking them. And since then we've uncovered they were doing all of the things. Okay. They were full allies. So therefore it wasn't belligerent to attack a neutral country. If Hitler had invaded Sweden, that's a neutral country, to my knowledge. Was actually maintaining neutrality, and therefore you're wrong. So anyways, we do Lend-Lease, and we do all of this stuff over here. And then over here in the Pacific, we put an oil embargo on Japan.
Just popped in my head. If you do this as a human being to someone else who's breaking the law, isn't that aiding and abetting and you get arrested for it?
Right.
Okay, but as a country, apparently it's okay. And
No,
it's neutral.
it's complete common sense. We're just relying on that you're a human being with common sense
Gotcha.
because it's just simple. So we put an oil embargo on Japan, and they have 18 months left for their fleet now, right? Which means that they have to attack.
Or they're going to have their fleet will be dead in the water.
Their fleet will be dead in the water. And so it's like they didn't even want to attack us because do you know what attacking Pearl Harbor means? It also means attacking Singapore. It means attacking all the British interests down in Southeast Asia. It means eventually going on to New Zealand and Australia. It's a long ways around Australia, and you got like it's terrible. You know, they don't want this. They want their war over here. And in their sphere of interest. They don't want to go to a greater power sphere of interest and actually attack the greater power. That's insane. But the system did want that. So that your sons could go to war and die. Well, not yours, but grandparents or whatnot.
So you would back, or our ancestors would back this.
Right. And then everybody's like, we're anti-war. War! We want
They
war.
bombed us.
It's a trick. It's a trap, right? And so this is how they mission creep you. And it's done all the time. There's the Gulf of Tonkin false flag. It's up there. There's all these different methods they use. And now we're looking at Ukraine, right?
Okay.
And it's like, do Americans want the draft to send their kids to Ukraine to fight Russia? Yay or nay?
Nay. It's good.
Okay. What if we say Russia conquers Ukraine tomorrow and Russia then invades Latvia on the Baltic Sea? That's a NATO member, I think. I'm pretty sure. But now we have to go to war with Russia, the draft. Do you think people in America are in favor of the draft for Latvia?
I can't imagine they are.
I can't imagine they are, right? Even if Russia's the bad guy, World War III, we could do nukes. We could do all the things. We could practice new stuff that we haven't even done. We could probably have a period of mass innovation where we just get some really new things that could kill more people. Yeah, sounds pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like the Russian system, I don't want the Russian people to suffer.
Yeah.
Up to a point, you can't let, troops march into America or something. But what I'm saying is, you look at what the mission creep in Ukraine, and at first it was, we won't send weapons, but we'll send supplies.
Okay.
Then it was like, we'll send supplies. Then it was like, hey, we'll send artillery. We'll train your troops in Poland. We'll train your troops in Poland. Then it was, well, not officially, but definitely, we'll do special operations on the ground with our special forces. Even though we're talking about risking a small amount of Americans, I'm out.
Yeah.
Sorry, not for this one. There could be one, and then we're at tanks. We're at $100 billion. Now we're talking, Sean Penn just came back. Well, he came back 10 days ago, and he's like, we need more we need more ammunition, precision long-range weapons, and jet fighters to send there.
He's an expert in this, right?
Yeah, I think he's a Ukrainologist.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
And a war enthusiast?
Yes, I believe. Okay. Oh, yeah. Rah, the war. Right. I wonder what the check got from the Defense Department to do that. Or he's probably just an idiot, honestly. He's probably just a moron.
Or the Ukrainian gave him money that we gave him, and then but I mean,
love it. Wonderful point.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians gave him money that we gave them to say that they need more money.
Right.
Love it. Okay.
It's an investment.
Right. Excuse me. So if you're looking at this right here, you can't say that this is not mission creep.
Okay.
We just escalate.
Right.
I mean, another thing we did is we used our surveillance and stuff like that to help the Ukrainians target.
Oh, that's right.
A Navy ship, Oh, and we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
I was waiting for a response.
Yeah. So it's going really good.
Yeah.
And it's like this. You don't want World War III. I don't want World War III. I would love it if everybody was just hanging out.
Just stay in your own area and do your own thing.
Right. But the Ukrainians are just very insistent on shelling the Donbass region. And I'll link description in the video of our Stand With Ukraine ? Video. I got to put the question mark in there because anyways. And it's just that the system's pushing you into yet another war.
Right.
And the thing is you're not going to do anything about it. You won't attend one protest. You won't donate $1 to a worthy cause. And your kids will go to war. And my sons will go to war. They're not old enough yet, thankfully. But
There's going to be some other Ukraine.
Oh, there'll be another one.
20
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
For goodness sakes, can we wake up and act as responsible, mature adults?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that you can say no to the draft when it comes, people with guns will come and put you in a room.
Right.
Or your kids in a room. That's what's going to happen. And you're going to either end up in a firefight at your house or you're just going to comply. It's the time to stop them is during the mission creep, is to say absolutely no.
Right.
And I don't care what side you're on right now because, the Democrats are really big on this Ukraine thing, but the Republicans are too. Mitch McConnell said this is the number one most important thing for Americans to do right now is to support Ukraine.
That is false. Yeah.
What can you do with this? You've got to stand up against it.
Yeah.
That's it, though. But you've got to do something. I say, how many times have I said this? You've got to do something. Join a movement. Participate. Engage. Talk to your family and relatives. Take down your freaking Ukrainian flags. You're helping the mission creep. They'll only do some of the stuff they'll only do if they know that a certain amount of people support them, right?
Well, the view of the people is very important because they show us it's important because of the mission creep. They know they need to figure out, get our support. Even if they're lying about it,
Right.
They know that's important.
Right. And I understand that if we don't give them our support, then they'll just create a false flag and do it anyways. But I'd rather them have to do something like that exposes how terrible they are, even though the loss of life in that is terrible. And I'm not for that at all, obviously. But do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally.
Because then it's even more obvious and more, but they do it again and again, and people just don't wake up.
Yeah, stop being complicit in
Right.
their little schemes.
Almost every single war we've had in the last over 100 years, it's just weapons of mass destruction. It's just fake stuff.
Yeah.
And you just got to say no.
Right. So this is kind of a bunny trail. Pretend we weren't pushing or instigating things with Ukraine and Russia and we were actually neutral. Is there ever a point where we do need to intervene? Or is it just, does Russia take over the whole world and it's just them and then us on our little in North America?
I mean, I would say that there are situations, but a regional situation or a regional conflict wherein Russia is fighting to protect ethnic Russians. So they're automatically the good guys. I'm not even going to remain neutral. You're allowed to fight for your own ethnic people. And the problem is, okay, now do Taiwan. And I understand that argument. I get it. Because Taiwanese are not Taiwanese, they're Chinese. They're just Chinese people who live on an island. And then they were like the ousted people who technically say that they're the real rulers of China over the communists. You know what I mean? But they're all Chinese people. And so you're like, okay, we need to sacrifice our troops so that we can tell the Chinese what the Chinese people can do with Chinese people. No, sorry. Now, if you say, okay, China is going to do a campaign to conquer all of the people of sub-Saharan Africa, right? Okay, that's different.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's a different thing.
One's conquest and one is just protecting your people.
Right. So I would say we should have made a bigger fuss about when the Dalai Lama comes from where? I forgot the name of the Nepal. It's right next to Nepal. Okay. I can't believe I forgot. But anyways, there's a very small country where the Dalai Lama comes from. And it was way back when. And China says, hey, we're going to invade this country. But the country has no strategic value for us. So we just sent the CIA with some rocket launchers and stuff like that, gave them to the Buddhists. And the Buddhists said, nope, we're Buddhists. We're not doing that. And then they were just peacefully conquered, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think those are Chinese people up there.
Okay.
So this to me is a more flagrant violation. Of course, it's very centralized and it would be so hard to engage. Right. I'm just saying when you're talking about one ethnicity fighting their own ethnicity, like fighting for their own ethnicity, that's none of our business.
That's a part of some just construct of a country.
Right. And if you say the whole thing where you're like, appeasement only gets you so far, and then like say you point to Hitler, right?
Okay.
Hitler at every point, his contest was only for regions with like 90% plus German ethnicity. It's none of our business what he's doing. You appease him, you gave him back part of his land that has all Germans in it.
That was taken 20 years
earlier. Okay. And then what? You know what I mean? Because the question is when he says, oh, you know what I would really like is I would really like France, you know? Well, that's a no. That's for the French people, you know?
Yeah.
And if they want to talk about Alice Lorraine, the little disputed area, you know, you could talk about it. You could actually have a conversation about whether that's valid or not. So I think we should draw the line at not helping people who are, not interfering when people are trying to free people who are being killed of their own ethnicity.
Okay. Because it's just what you would do if your own people, like your family, your community, you'd protect them as well.
I agree 100%.
Okay. Well, hopefully you got something out of this. It's amazing how much we've been manipulated, us and generations before us, into cheering for the wars. I know growing up, I was all about Kuwait, Desert Storm, and then Afghanistan, Iraq, and let's get the bad guys. And it's embarrassing looking back. And
the illusion that our troops have died for freedom.
Right.
Like they do this, they just propagandize you every holiday, Memorial Day, and they say, oh, all of our troops who have fought for freedom. Do you mean oil?
Right.
Did you mean oil? And I'm not talking bad about those troops because those troops are going there with the best of intentions.
Right.
They're going there, propagandize themselves that they're fighting for freedom. And they're like, yeah, brother, we fought for freedom today. Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
Right.
So the grunt soldier's not the bad guy.
But Afghanistan went back to being Afghanistan within, 36 hours of us being out there? It was as if we were never there.
Right. And we're still occupying the areas of Syria that have oil,
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, very frustrating. Again, hopefully this is challenging the way you're thinking and can start to see the patterns. And, one of our goals is always that when you're watching the news or reading something online that you start reading it and go, I know what's going on here. And,
just be skeptical at the least.
Yeah, what's really happening, what's really their motives, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully you can be applying this to your life. We'll talk to you next time.